What's going on, Assassins? It's Dark Shard of the YouTube Assassin, and today we're going to take a look back at Assassin's Creed Part 3. Now, this game was actually kind of controversial, and there were several reasons why. I'll get into them in a little bit. So, first of all, let's explain the plot and the narrative, because that actually plays into what's going on with the controversies of this game. So for starters, when Desmond dives into the Animus, he plays as his ancestor Haytham Kenway, who is the son of Edward Kenway, the pirate from Black Flag, which is the game that comes after this game. Now, I know I had a lot of questions initially about Black Flag, particularly I couldn't remember how Edward becomes an assassin, if he even does. He basically stole his outfit, and then he kind of imposed himself on the assassins and decided to help them out while at the same time being a pirate. And he all of a sudden became an assassin somehow. Well, Sean Hastings in the present day confirms that he was an assassin, he became an assassin, as did Haytham Kenway, which is kind of wild, because at the end of basically the beginning of the game, you learn all about Haytham and whatnot, and it looks like he's doing the right thing, but it isn't until this point, until you're basically done with the demo, that you discover one of the dark secrets of the game, that Haytham was actually a Templar. So that was completely mind-blowing initially, but it wasn't a game breaker. It wasn't anything that people lost their minds over, other than it was a cool twist. It was such a shock that in the present day, the assassins were all blown away. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, what they were hearing, that Haytham was this Templar who was once an assassin. And we don't really get into why he turned or when he turned. I'm pretty sure there is some media out there, possibly a book or a comic that shows all about it. But right now, everyone is blown away. But we needed to get that narrative initially because we needed to learn about Connor Kenway, who is his son. Now, he is a Native American half, because his mother was obviously Native American. Haytham was on a mission trying to open a door, and they knew that it had precursor / Isu stuff inside of it, but they just didn't know where it was. He did a couple of things. He was very kind to Connor's people, and when the mother was ready, she showed him the door. And unfortunately, it wasn't what they were looking for, but he did fall in love with her. Now, you also find that he left after, she was pregnant and whatnot. Connor's mother sadly dies. And Connor goes off trying to learn what his destiny is. And he was actually told by Juno to seek out the assassins. But the thing is that we all know that Juno doesn't do things except for her own benefit. Now, as that went along, we learned still that you're doing kind of like a demo kind of thing. You're still in a tutorial, and one of the things was naval combat. A lot of people enjoyed it, and this really started the naval combat craze in future Assassin's Creeds, but there were people that really did not like this. They didn't like the way the ship moved. They didn't like using the ship. It just wasn't Assassin's Creed enough for them, and they hated it. Me personally, it didn't bother me, but the story goes on, and you find out that Connor's land is being sold. He becomes an assassin. He's taught by Achilles. He spends years in his training and whatnot, from childhood all the way to adulthood, and finally he's ready to go on and defeat the Templars, knowing that the lead Templar is his own father. So he knows that he may have to kill his own dad, which was absolutely mind-boggling again, because it was something that we never saw in an Assassin's Creed game. And it was kind of funny because this story was kind of paralleling what was going on in the present day between Desmond and William Miles. The two of them really didn't have a great relationship. And this was kind of a mirror where Connor and his father really didn't have a great relationship. He didn't know anything about him other than he was the bad guy. And that he left his mother, without even knowing that Connor existed. So he'll meet up with him later on, and you handle all kinds of stuff there. The combat was absolutely great. It was a lot of fun playing this. This was one of the only games that really had the one-touch system where you were able to kind of block and then stab somebody else and really go nuts, go wild with the combat. But there were some people that really felt that this game was no good. A couple of people really praised this game. Eurogamer, Game Informer, G4, IGN. They all gave it anywhere from 8.5 all the way to 9s. This really didn't get a perfect score, but there were some people that really, really were not too happy with it. Even though G4 hilariously gave it a 5 out of 5, they felt that the game wasn't perfect, but they gave it a 5 out of 5. This is why I'm telling you, I never listen to anything that comes out of G4, Adam Sessler or anybody like that. They really don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to games. It just seems to me like they're bought. They didn't have anything valid to say about it. What they were upset with in this game was that there was so much story, so much multiplayer, so much stuff to do that the average 10-hour game, it should be terribly ashamed of itself because they just packed it full of all this filler rather than an actual game. And I highly disagree with that. There was a lot of stuff to do in here. There was a lot of lore to unpack, and it was just absolutely wild. Now, while I personally did like the game, I don't believe that the game was perfect, and it wasn't because of stupid filler nonsense or anything like that, because a lot of the stuff that was going on needed to be said. What you got to understand is that this is a lot of dealings with the assassins, and you see who's in the background there, Juno. That was the big bad that we were supposed to be attacking. In the present day, you went on these little jaunts, these little trips, where you stepped out of the Animus and you actually spoke to Juno. You actually heard her speaking her side of the story, what she was trying to accomplish, and the whole reason that we're in trouble at this point. It was 2012, and she explained it. She was explaining that the solar flares were kind of going to kill everybody. Kind of. But they tried so many other things, and there was a way to save humanity, or to save the precursors, even though they didn't survive it. Now, what aggravated me was that they really, really set her up to be like this big bad. We were going to battle her somehow. She was going to come to life. We were actually going to fight in Isu. You were going to fight like a real god in present day. And they jerked us. They took that away, I was hoping that this would lead up to a present day game and then go back in time, because there's some other great evil that, we have to look into, that we have to remember, that we have to find in order to save humanity. There's like a brand new thing. And honestly, if you look at Valhalla, they're regurgitating what they've already done. All of a sudden, the solar flares are acting up again, or there's tectonic plate movements. The world is going to die again. And we don't have Desmond to save us this time. But it's really the same stuff that we've seen in Assassin's Creed 3. So, that was kind of messed up. The other thing that I really enjoyed was their version of Atlantis. When you see at the end of this game, or towards the end of this game, when they're talking about Atlantis, you actually see the city fall, and it looks absolutely, completely, incredibly nothing like we saw in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Atlantis is totally different. It made more sense as opposed to the Atlantis in Odyssey, because they really make it look like a Greek kingdom, a Greek goddess kingdom. And that's not what it was when we first see the Isu and the precursors in Atlantis. So, that kind of jerked me. I was kind of upset about that. But then again, that's a future game. I was actually really excited to see Desmond in action. With the bleeding effect, he was becoming an assassin, and he was really being validated in this game. He wasn't just some tool, he just wasn't some fool. He was actually doing his part. He was becoming an assassin. He was getting into it. And there was supposed to be talk about him being in future games and doing certain things that were even beyond the animus. He was supposed to be like the Messiah, which was great. But because they switched directions and directors and everything like that, they ended up just cutting him short. There was so much story potential there, and they just absolutely robbed Desmond of that. What ends up happening is at the end, they end up killing him. He ends up giving his life in order to save humanity. And then they leave his body there for Abstergo to come and collect, which I thought was absolute garbage. Like, why would they do that? So part of the controversy was that nobody really liked the ending. They were kind of upset that they had did Desmond like that. A lot of other stuff that was involved here was, people were actually upset the way that they made Connor. Some people felt that they treated him kind of like the old, like 1950s kind of like serials on TV where you see, the Native American is dumb and, just speaks with like some kind of impediment and whatnot. You got to speak slow for them to understand. And, people really, they took offense to that. But in all reality, he really was never treated like that. I think a lot of people just didn't understand it. A lot of people were also upset by the time period. They didn't feel that the time period was cool. They felt like it should have been something else entirely, that, this is not the route that they should have taken. And then there were some people who were just fanatical lore hounds who really didn't understand why he had, like Middle Eastern, Italian, English, and then, like Native American blood inside of Desmond. But the thing is that, that actually makes a great story. United States, we call it the melting pot of the world, even though, sometimes we forget that. But that is actually what it's all about. That's what life is all about. Going about your business, being a good person, and just, you mix with somebody, you mix with somebody. You love somebody, you love somebody. And I thought that was pretty cool. But the controversies for a lot of people were too much in this game. Game reviewers overall enjoyed it. They thought that it brought the best of all the Assassin's Creeds. They thought that it really was innovative because it was the first time that you had naval combat. But some of the player critics, again, really did not enjoy the player combat. They didn't enjoy the scenario. They didn't enjoy that once again the controls were altered from previous games. And actually, this was the first game that altered those controls. Even though it wasn't a deal breaker for me, it just, was kind of goofy. I just pondered how we were going to get through the next Assassin's Creeds without Desmond, and I even thought that was the end of the series, even though there is some more narrative with Juno and whatnot, but I thought that was it. I thought that was just to hype us up, just to leave it open-ended, and I really did think that this was the end of the series. But anyway, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this game? Did you play this game? Is this something that you would try? What do you think of the time period? Was this a good time period to be in? Also, I'd love to know, what do you think of the games that would come after this one? It was kind of weird that a part 4 came out and it was supposed to take place before this one. And then you have Rogue, which kind of ties Black Flag and part 3 together. And then Unity is jammed in there, even though it's supposed to take place in a completely other area. Like, what do you think of that? Was that just lazy writing, or Was it something that needed to be said? It was something that needed to be told. Do you think that they did the right thing walking away from Desmond's ancestry, or do you think that we're still in Desmond's ancestry in every further game? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Other than that, I really do hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss any content as it comes out. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, take care, be good, stay safe, take care of each other. I'll see you guys all in the next one.
But she believed in her children and what they might have